Oliver Ward here, the Canadian camera beach bum. In this video, I'm gonna tell you how I made tens of thousands of dollars using this broken lens. So let's cut right to the chase. What is the lens? It is the Sony 10-18 f4 optical steady shot wide angle lens. Now, if you're not a Sony user, don't despair. Or if you use Sony but you don't have this lens, also don't despair. This lens is great. I just put it back on the camera. I mean, look at it. It's insanely wide, which I've definitely found a lot of use for, which I'm going to tell you about later on in the video. But how I made so much money with it has less to do with the lens itself and more to do with how I think about my gear after I broke this lens. So let me quickly show you, one, how I broke the lens so you don't do that. Two, how I used it to make so much money even though it was busted. And three, which I think is the most valuable lesson, what happened in my thought process after I broke this lens and how it's affected the way I look at all the rest of my gear and how that gear makes me money. So first, how did I break this lens? Well, it was 6 years ago. I had just bought it. I was a wedding videographer, and take it away, me. I was outside at a wedding, and it was nice. Everything was nice. I looked nice. The weather was nice. It did not look like this. It was nice. I was setting up the groom and the groomsmen, and I had left my camera behind me on a tripod, a lot like that. I wasn't paying attention, and then one of the groomsmen said, "Hey, bro." And as I turned around, and just like that, my brand new lens busted. What happened? These little clips on the tripod I hadn't fully fastened down, so the leg slowly pushed in until it was far enough, and then the whole thing came crashing down. I was bummed because I had a wedding to shoot, but I didn't want to risk anything. I didn't know if the autofocus was broken. I didn't know if there'd be scratches on the lens, so I put it in my bag. The next day I did a thorough inspection. The only thing that I found was that my 10-18 was now a 10-16. Something was preventing it from zooming all the way into 18 millimeters. I had spent $1,000 on this lens. I had insurance. I took it back to the camera shop. They said my deductible was $1,000. So really, if I wanted a new lens, I would just have to buy a new one. That sucks when you just have a newborn, you're starting a new business, and you have zero extra funds to invest. So I just decided I would have to make do with that lens in the condition that it was. Lucky for me, I had a friend who was a real estate agent, and he asked me if I would shoot video and photo of his listings. I said, sure, I'd give it a shot. Turns out I'm not bad at real estate photography, and that lens that I had busted that was basically stuck at 10 millimeters was the perfect real estate lens. In the past 5 years, I've averaged about 48 houses a year. And my average price of real estate being around $400 a pop, that's an average of around $20,000 a year. Over 5 years, that's $96,000 for one broken $1,000 lens. Which brings me to lesson number 3 and the real realization about equipment and money. If you have friends who are carpenters or chefs or photographers or painters or anyone that uses tools for a living, this is something they probably already know. Let's take the carpenter example. Every carpenter needs a hammer. It doesn't have to be the best hammer. Broken down to its simplest, it needs to be reliable. It needs to be able to get the job done. And if you've ever seen a seasoned carpenter swing a hammer, they use that thing not like the way we do, because they've built up a relationship with that hammer after many, many years of using it. So even though it might be dented and chipped and have paint on it, it is their preferred tool, something they would much rather have than the shiniest, newest hammer out of Home Depot. That's how I feel about this lens. Yes, it's broken. Yes, it's chipped. Yes, it makes a little noise when you use the zoom. But I know this lens inside and out. I know exactly what it does in any given situation. Yes, I should replace it. It's made its money. It deserves to be put to bed. But when I look at all the equipment in my locker and I ask each one of those pieces of equipment, and I do talk to my equipment, how much money have you made me? That lens can confidently say,
at least $96,000, Oliver.
And that's how I look at all my gear now. What brings me money? What costs me money? What sits on the shelf collecting dust? What is reliable? What do I use the most? And that is my parting thought to all videographers or photographers. Think about what is your hammer? What is that one piece of gear that you use every time that always comes out of your bag? That is the piece of gear that's gonna allow you to make your money and build your business. If you like this video, I have another one coming out next week about my other two workhorses, the two lenses that come out of my bag on every single shoot that I use. This will be music to most of your ears. They are incredibly affordable. They punch way above their weight. So look out for that video. If you want to get involved in the conversation, comment down below. What is that piece of gear that you consider your workhorse? The piece of gear that you pull out of your bag on every single shoot. I'm curious to see if there's a lot of similarities or if everyone has their own unique piece of gear. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next week where I'll be wearing a different Hawaiian shirt. Bye.